Hello everybody and welcome to another MMO Convo. I know it's been a while since I've done an MMO Convo, but that is because I've been waiting for news like this. Today, Snipehunter has basically given us a look into advanced traversal mechanics, and of course this is just testing. This is set up in a testing environment, and it's also using the low fidelity, low poly client that we will be seeing throughout pre-Elyria. So just as an example, I will put up a screenshot of the pre-Elyria graphics, and then after that I will put a screenshot up of the expected graphics, which still might change as we get closer to release. So now that we've got that out of the way, I just want to mention that there are kind of 3 points that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the PvP implications of having traversal mechanics like this. I want to talk about what it means in PvE, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the skill requirements and character requirements in order to do some of these feats, because as we get further and further into the video, you'll see that Snipe is able to direct his character through some pretty cool mechanics to get over and across obstacles. In my opinion, I think the biggest part of the game that can be influenced by these mechanics is the PvP, because when you think about PvP in most other games, particularly survival games or games that allow you to build, they focus on building honeycomb structures that have many internal layers so that it's harder for opposing players to blow the doors open or somehow find a weakness and blow that segment of wall open and then flood in. Well, with this, we're going to have to put a little bit more consideration into building our defensive structures, how we put each piece of the structure together, where the windows are, what kind of materials we use, and I'm going to get a little bit more into materials later, but just under the broad scope of things, can you imagine building a castle that's easily accessible by creeping up the side of a climbable wall structure, climbing up onto the roof, and then sneaking in through a window and getting an assassination attempt in on a king or monarch or whoever you may be targeting? I think a lot of thought is going to have to go into defensive building. So for example, we've seen that Snipe has been jumping across things, over things, and soon we'll see him vaulting. I think consideration is going to have to be put into how far apart different pieces of the structure are. So, you know, people might start thinking about, hey, can somebody with the certain traversal mechanics skill, I don't know what it's going to be called in the game, maybe agility or free running or something like that, but can somebody with the free running skill possibly make it from point A to point B and then infiltrate our building because we didn't plan it well enough or we gave them too much of an easy path to get up? Because this isn't just something that, you know, we're going to place buildings and expect them to keep us safe. We're now going to have to consider the fact that we could actually have assassins who are trained to do this sneak in and make things a little bit harder for us. And I love this aspect of things. It's not something you see in a lot of games, particularly building games right now that are on the market. As I said, it's mostly the honeycomb structure and blasting your way through, but this, you could be very tactful and you wouldn't even need to damage the building to do damage to your opponent, if that was what you were intending to do. So if you do build a particular structure, imagine having like wooden spikes or heck even metal spikes under an area where a player might make a mistake and fall off a building. We'll see Snipe kind of have an oops and he'll jump and he'll just land on the ground, but can you imagine if that ground had like a pit of snakes or an alligator or an angry otter bear or even Canis rabbits, you know what I mean? So people could get really creative with how they try and take advantage of the traversal system. So if they think that there's a chance they might be snuck up on and attacked by ninjas that have decided to gain skill in traversing structures, then maybe they go ahead and place traps underneath everything so that if for whatever reason the ninja isn't up to par and they fall off, they end up hurting themselves or even dying on the traps. This is just what amazes me about this game, is that there is so much potential for us to just be completely creative, make our own metas, because I don't think this is going to be the kind of game where it's going to be like, okay, there's one PvP meta, this is what everyone's going to do, this is how they're going to do it, and every time whoever has this and this and this is going to be successful. I think there are way too many aspects of this game that need to be brought together to even assume that we're going to be able to pick and choose exactly what works really well. I know that there are people out there who are really good at analyzing games and finding the meta and taking advantage of it, but I have a feeling that Chronicles of Elyria is going to be a little bit different, and I'm hoping that I'm right because I'm waiting for that PvP-centric game that isn't exactly just, oh, well, if you're not doing it this way, you're not going to be the top of the leaderboards. So now my biggest question involving PvP and this new traversal mechanic is, will types of materials matter that you use? So at the very beginning of the video, we see Snipehunter in like a sandstone structure. As far as I can tell, you can't really just shimmy up a sandstone wall or climb up a sandstone wall, as there aren't really any footholds. So is this going to be something that the developers consider? I mean, I'm sure you could run and jump and, you know, do the little leap thing up and grab the roof kind of thing, but if it's a taller structure, I'd imagine they would not allow a player to climb up. Just assuming here, just wondering how that might work. You know, the typical, you see a roof with the shingles. Is it going to be harder with shingles? Will the shingles come off? I know that's more of like a movie thing. You know, just questions I have about how this might work or not work in the game. Now on to the PvE side of the advanced traversal mechanics. So I think it's pretty obvious what I'm going to say in regards to this, and I also know it's not going to be as long as the PvP section, so this one's going to be short and sweet. Basically, it is going to be amazing that we can use this mechanic to climb around, jump around, and vault around in the world of Elyria. Elyria is truly going to be one of those worlds where there are no invisible walls. We can make our way through the environment whichever way we find best for our character or however we set our character up, and I think that's amazing. Remember those old days of games where you used to really want to get to a certain area, like, ooh, I wonder what's over that mountain. You climb up the mountain, you get to the top, and then you hit an invisible wall, and that's the end of your experience. And you're like, well, okay, I guess those are the bounds of the game. Well, I think that this mechanic is going to help contributing to a game that really doesn't have many bounds when it comes to exploration. I think we're going to be able to explore everything, and I'm so excited for it, and this is going to help, you know? We're going to be able to shimmy up and down trees to get a good vantage point. Maybe we could even pull a log over a river or a stream so that we can get across without being wet and use that balance mechanic that we were just showed to do so. We'll be able to slide under rock faces that are blocking our way in a tunnel or in a cave so that we can get into the final chamber and figure out what's in there. There's just so much that we could possibly do with this in PvE, and I'm really excited to see how it mixes in with everyone's builds and skills and the statistics that they want for their character. And this brings me into my last point, which is really a speculative one, and one that I have quite a few questions about. How far through whatever skill tree this is are we going to have to go in order to be able to do things as flawlessly as Snipehunter is doing in this video? I think this is a really important question to ask, because if all of us can crawl around like ninjas, I think there's going to be a little bit of a problem. I think that players should really have to dive into this and study it in the game to be able to do all of these different things and perform like this, specifically when we're talking about PvP, because I don't know, I can't imagine hundreds of players scaling walls at the same. That would be so overwhelming. I can't even imagine it. So I think that there should be and probably will be some limitation put on this, and I'm assuming these will all be learned things, just like how combat is learned the more you do it and you learn more techniques. They've already shown us how that can vary, and how by getting your skill up you can more successfully block or parry and things like that. So I'm assuming that we will need to get our skills up in order to be able to even do some kind of activity that looks like this. I'm sure that what Snipehunter is showing is like kind of the end game of things. Now on that note, I also want to mention that I think, in my opinion, this whole mechanic should be tied to the shape that you are in, because I can't really see a character who has gorged themselves on ham steaks and, I don't know, otter bear tongue or something, and, you know, maybe someone who's a little bit bigger and not as athletic. I can't see a character who is not athletic doing all of this stuff. I think that, like Snipehunter's character in this example, I think that they're going to need to be physically fit, and I'm pretty sure that physical fitness will be part of the game, I would assume, and that eating perhaps could affect that, maybe not. I will have to do a little bit more research on that. but I think it would fit in pretty well with what they're going for here as far as somebody who is well versed in traversing the terrain and structures. So this was just a quick look into this week's shiny, which was Advanced Traversal Mechanics testing done by Snipehunter in a test environment with the pre-Elyria graphics. We will be seeing different graphics. I just want to say this again, we will be seeing updated and different graphics come release of the game. So I hope this has given those of you who don't keep up on the website or the Discord a little bit of extra information on Chronicles of Elyria. As always, guys, I hope you are enjoying your games. Please feel free to check out the link to my community Discord in the description box down below, and also I would love to know what you think about this. What do you think about the advanced traversal mechanics and how they will affect PvE, PvP, and also the way we build our characters? So that's it for me. Enjoy your games, and I will see you all in the next video.